I traded in my 2025 Tacoma for this 2026 TRD Rally Tundra. I've had it for almost 2 months, nearly 2,000 miles, and I've daily driven it, lived with it, hauled a 38-foot camper with it, and today I'm gonna go over what I love about this truck, what I miss about the Tacoma, and if it came down to it, would I make the switch again? All right, so I want to start off by saying I honestly love my Tacoma. It was a great truck, and when I got it, it was the perfect truck for me. You know, it got good gas mileage. It still kept truck traits. It fit in the garage really well, and you know, I wasn't hauling stuff. But as I had the Tacoma for almost an entire year, actually just over a whole year, I found my needs started to change. We're going camping more, so I needed more room in the bed. You know, we have 3 dogs, so fitting them all in the backseat of the Tacoma was doable, but it wasn't comfortable. We ended up purchasing a camper, and we were originally targeting one that the Tacoma could tow, because the Tundra thought wasn't even in my mind. But we ended up getting a good deal on a camper that was a lot bigger than I thought we were going to get. And because of that, the Tacoma really struggled to tow it. So after we got the camper, I reached out to a few Toyota dealerships in my area, and I was able to get out of the Tacoma with 0 negative equity. Now keep in mind, I was leasing the Tacoma, and I only had it for a year. So the fact that I was able to get out of a Tacoma into a Tundra, specifically this one, the TRD Rally, with no negative equity, and I own this one, I just couldn't pass that deal up. The space upgrade is just something that on paper you think, oh yeah, I'm gonna have more space. But until you actually live with it day in and day out, like, you don't really appreciate it. And then the first thing I noticed when I got the Tundra is how much more roomy the front of the cabin is. You know, when I went into it, I was thinking, oh, the back seat's gonna be bigger, it's gonna be great for the dogs if we have people in the back. But I was really surprised at how much more spacious the front of the cab is. You know, you have this huge center console divider, and you actually have your own space. You don't feel as cramped. You know, you don't really notice how cramped you feel in a Tacoma. Now keep in mind, I'm 6'2", until you step into something a little bigger. I love how much space is in the back. Like I said, you have people back there. You never know what you're gonna have to haul in the bed. It's just a great overall upgrade. One thing I wasn't really thinking about when I switched over to the Tundra from the Tacoma was how much nicer the interior feels. It actually feels like a premium interior. That was honestly one of the disappointments when I got the SR5 Tacoma, is the interior, while it was nice, it just felt kind of cheap. You know, like plastic had a lot of flex to it, or the plastic was thin. You know, this truck, when I close the door, you can tell it's got some weight to it. It's got some heft to it. You know, it feels premium. You know, granted, I do have the TRD Rally package, so I do have the TRD steering wheel, shift knob. Like, it does feel a little more premium. It's just enjoyable to drive. Plus, another thing I will say is the ride does seem a lot smoother. Bumps are less noticeable. You just don't feel like you're kind of floating on the road. You really feel like you're planted. You have a solid vehicle. Plus, having a full-size truck, you know, it's nice not being the little guy on the road again. And of course, you know, the big upgrade is obviously the towing capacity and the bed space. We just went on a trip, and I had to pack the bed full, and I honestly don't know how we would have did it with the Tacoma. The Tacoma was just way too small. You know, granted, this bed's only 5.5 feet, where my Tacoma was 5 feet, but you have so much more width to it. And as far as towing goes, our camper's 38 feet, and like I said, it was a lot bigger than we thought we were gonna get. It just worked out. And now, granted, I shouldn't have towed it with the Tacoma, but we only had to go 30 minutes, so don't worry. And it was definitely an experience. You know, the Tacoma, like I said, has a 6,000 pound towing capacity, and I want to say our camper's dry weight was like over 7,500. So driving down the highway with the wind, it was a little floaty, a little scary. But then I was, you know, telling my girlfriend, like, I have to get a bigger truck if we're going to tow us around. And we went on our first camping trip, and while, you know, the camper is still pretty heavy for this thing, it handled it great. The engine, it pulls hard, no issues. I will say the camper's, you know, like I said, it's a 38-foot camper, so it's got some heft to it. I need to get a weight distribution hitch because the weight on the tongue was a lot. It was really compressing the back end, and you could definitely feel when you go over bumps, but that's expected. Other than that, Averaged 8.5 miles to the gallon, so not terrible, I guess. So I've talked a lot about the things I love coming from the Tacoma to the Tundra, but let's start off with the elephant in the room is obviously fuel economy. With my Tacoma, I was getting really good mileage. I was getting like 23 miles to the gallon city, which that was really surprising to me. You know, obviously it only has a 4-cylinder turbo. When I had my Silverado, I'd probably get around, you know, anywhere from 15 to 18, depending on how much highway driving I did. Well, with this truck, I'm probably averaging around the same, maybe a little better, like 17, 18. And it really makes you wonder, why did they switch from the Triton engine, the V8, to the twin turbo? I don't really see a big mileage gain. I have read comments on some of the videos that's saying people are getting like 28 miles to the gallon. I don't know what they're doing. They must be some sorcerer or something. Even though I'm getting worse fuel economy, this thing's got a massive fuel tank. It's 32 gallons. The Tacoma had an 18-gallon tank. If I ran it to where it told me I needed to fill up, I was getting like 320 to 350 miles. This one, though, even though I'm getting worse mileage, like right now, for example, I'm averaging 13 because we towed the camper, but I still have 252 miles to empty, and I've gone almost 200 miles. So even though you're not getting as good as gas mileage, you're going to go to the pump less, which it's kind of like, what is it, psychological, right? Thinking it's a better deal. You're not going to the pump as much, but obviously you're going to pay more. But it honestly, it doesn't bother me. The fact that I don't have to go to the pump all the time, it's good, you know? You don't have to go out of your way to find a gas station, stop at a gas station. You're running somewhere, oh, we got to go to the gas station first. It's just nice to not be able to worry about it and fill up, you know, once every couple weeks instead of once a week. You know, but that leads me into the next topic. One of my gripes about the Tundra, and I didn't know about this until somebody commented on one of my videos, it has different safety software than the Tacoma did. So even though this is a newer truck, it's a 2026, my Tacoma was a 2025, and it was more expensive, it has arguably a worse safety feature. When you would use remote start in the Tacoma, you could walk up to the car, unlock it, and get in, and it would still be running, and then you just put your foot on the brake, hit the start button, and you're ready to go. With the Tundra, you can remote start it, yeah, but when you unlock the truck, it turns off. It's just super annoying. I don't know who thought that was a good idea, and I get at the time it was a safety feature or a, you know, anti-theft feature, but every other manufacturer didn't have an issue with, you know, remote starting your truck, unlocking it, getting in, turning the key, and you're ready to go. You know, my 2016 Silverado could do that. So why is a 2026 taking a step back? One thing I will say I miss is the size. So you might be like, what are you talking about? You're just talking about how much you love the cabin space and the bed space. And yeah, I do. I really do. And I don't think I would go back. But see, the thing is, though, it's just like practicality, right? If I'm going to the store, finding like a tight parking spot, or going to the city, the Tacoma had a much smaller footprint. Hell, even fitting it in my garage was much easier. You know, I don't know the dimensions offhand, but, you know, I think my garage is 24 feet deep, and I can't really have anything, you know, behind the truck. It's a tight fit. So I will say the footprint is definitely noticeable. It takes some getting used to. Luckily, my truck came with the 360-degree cameras, so it does make parking much easier than it would if I didn't have that. And like I said, I did have a 2016 Silverado, so it's very comparable to this truck. Yeah, that's one thing when you come from a smaller truck or smaller vehicle to a bigger one. Like, yeah, you're gaining space, but you're also gaining size of the vehicle, the footprint. So you got to be aware of, you know, where you are in the lanes, where you're parking, where you're going. Is it going to be a problem to parallel park, you know? So at that point, you know, we'll just take either my other car or my girlfriend's car if we're going downtown, so I don't have to worry about it. So with all that said, I could live with the bigger footprint because for my experience, my daily use of the truck, it outweighs the con. So that's one thing you'll have to take into account. You know, where you're living, are you going to try and put it in the garage? You know, how's parking in your area? Because this truck's pretty big. So I guess the whole point of this video is, was it worth it upgrading from a Tacoma to a Tundra? And for me, the answer is yes, 1,000 times over. You know, I can live with the little nuances that bug me, like the remote start. I mean, how often do you use remote start? I live north of the cities, so the parking isn't a big deal to me. But for you, if you're mainly commuting, I work from home, so I don't have to worry about that. Not towing, not doing, much truck things, but like having a truck, I think you should stick with a Tacoma. But if you're gonna start towing things, if you need the extra bed space to haul things, traveling with family, pets, they'll all appreciate more space. If you're towing, get the Tundra. Your family is 2 or more people and they're not little tiny kids in car seats, get the Tundra. If the Tacoma felt like the Tundra, if it felt premium, I may have kept it longer. But it was easier to upgrade when I, obviously was in a lease, so now I own this truck outright, and I don't have to worry about growing out of the truck, This truck is great, and like I said, I've had it for nearly 2,000 miles, and I wouldn't go back. So that leads me to you guys. Are you thinking about upgrading to a Tundra from a Tacoma? If so, what's your reservations? Why don't you drop a comment down below, and if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. I had a Tacoma for a full year. I put just over 8,000 miles on it, towed with it, driven in the snow with it. I'm in Minnesota, so it gets pretty rough up here sometimes. But at the end of the day, I think a Tacoma to Tundra upgrade is 100% worth it. And some people out there, that's not the case, but for me it was. I kind of rambled a lot in this video. If you enjoyed it, I'd appreciate a sub. Hit that like button. We got plenty more videos coming. I don't know when this one's gonna be released, but definitely more reviews. Gonna put a TRD Pro grill on, maybe some Fang lights, dash cam. So stick around, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.